Hello and welcome to the prevention. The oh goodness, sorry.
It's okay. I can edit it.
Yes.
I'll edit.
Okay. All right.
You want to do it again? Let's do another take.
Okay. Let's do another one. Oh, hello and welcome to the Burnout Prevention Network. Today is a special segment of our talk show. Today we get to see that our talk show host, the very well known Casey Pacheco, will be interviewed today by no one else but me. So let us roll on with the show. You will love it.
Hello, hello.
Welcome, Casey.
Hi, Nyapu.
Hello there. Welcome to the day that you get to tell us all about your nursing profession and tell us about, you know, other things we need to know about burnout prevention, how you got into it. So, are you ready for this?
Yes, ma'am. Let's do it.
Awesome, awesome. So, Casey, would you just tell our viewers what brought you into nursing? What made you to choose this profession?
I know, crazy, right? No, no, no. I. So my family and I, we lived. I was raised in Trinidad and Tobago, and my family and I took in older lady in the community. She didn't really have close, immediate family members. So when she took ill, we took her in. Actually, we moved in with her to take care of her. And my sisters, they weren't going to do the poop and the pee and the, oh yeah, they weren't going to wake up at night. Like that was just not their thing. And I didn't mind. It didn't bother me. So I started taking care of her on the weekends, in the evenings, all on the off times when I wasn't in school. And then whenever the doctor would come by, she would say, "Oh, you'll be my nurse." And I would help her do wound care. And I said, "Oh, I really like this." And at the time, I wanted to be a scientist and do all sorts of things. And I said, "I think I really like nursing." And it was just, I was always a healer and a nurturer. So it just stuck with me. And I knew from the age of 15 that nursing definitely was something I wanted to do as a career. And that's how I got into nursing.
Wow, Casey, that is one story completely different from mine. And this tells me that you, at the age of 15, a teenager who should be running around, going to parties, and just,
Right.
doing sleepovers. Here you are taking care of another human being. And that is remarkable. That is remarkable. So looking
It,
back, yes,
it was satisfying. It was very satisfying. Mhm.
that's wonderful. Do you have nurses in your family?
My aunt is a nurse. My aunt has been a nurse. She's been a nurse in the United States. So she's been a nurse. I think she was an LPN for a long time.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
So let's take you back to Trinidad and you taking on this task that you truly valued doing, looking back from then on. Have you seen anything change in the passion you have for nursing at the age of 15 or healthcare caregiving at such a tender age and looking back now, have you s- do you notice any change?
Oh yeah, there's been a lot of changes within the nursing field. But I would say from nursing at such a young age, I would definitely say a lot of changes within me.
Mm,
And as I grow, my view towards nursing. sort of changed along the years. I think
Okay.
also being in different settings, in the Caribbean, where it's a little bit more community oriented, um, whereas over here in the States, it's just a little bit more where you don't find communities, like close knit communities. So I think a lot of that played also into nursing, and just being a little bit more specific as to what I'm talking about. Um, in the Caribbean, you have where people will take that up, and whether it's paid or not paid, people will look out for the elderly. Whereas over here, I didn't find the same necessarily communal care for
Mhm.
especially seniors. So I think that was a bit of a shock to me. But as
Mhm.
I grew as a person, so did my perspective towards caregiving. It changed. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Geographically, when we move from one culture to another, one country to another, things are not always the same. And the concept of healthcare on this topic of healthcare,
Mhm.
I wouldn't expect it to be the same from Trinidad to here. And
Mhm.
has that concept and all the cultural dynamic, has it impacted your career at all?
I I think it has, because I think I always go back to I know in nursing you can make a lot of money, but I think for me nursing has always been a way to show respect,
Mhm.
for the elderly, to show appreciation and love for who they are, and to really honor the human being, for a life lived, whether it's a short term, it's being cut short because of illness like cancer, um, or it's being injured because some people, I worked with orthopedics for a while, but I just, from my view on nursing, it has always been more of a spiritual view where, um, yes, you can make money, but this is a privilege to take care of a person, and nurture them, not just the body, but the mind and their spirit. Mhm.
That's interesting, Casey. And that brings me to the point to share light a little bit on you being a holistic nurse.
Mhm.
Just this entire mindset that the human being needs to have a dignified care, to have to not suffer.
Mhm.
You tell me a little bit about how that brought you into becoming a holistic nurse.
Yeah, I love the concept of holism. I actually think that nursing, as it was founded by Florence Nightingale, it was meant to be holistic, where she took care not just of the soldiers' wounds, but she made sure that they had air and light, and everything surrounding their care facilitated healing. And as a holistic nurse, even when I did become a holistic nurse, I just thought, my brain was like, okay, not so much medications, there's other things we can do. And now, really blossoming as I practice and realizing that it's not just a way of nursing, but it's a lifestyle, and
Mhm.
it's an approach the to the human, to the being of a human, where it's so much more than just an attack and an injury, but
Yeah.
it's more of people are broken for reasons aside from just what we could physically see and touch and feel and hear. Um, as society breaks down, the mental health of people, in our communities, sometimes our own mental health, it takes a toll. And as a nurse, all of these things should come into our plan of care. All of the things that a person is dealing with, that it's making them sick, which means away from health, away from well being, should be considered and given just as much attention as a physical injury. So that's my path to holism. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, I realized that I actually leaned way more towards a holistic practice. And when I found out that there was an actual certification to do it,
Mm.
I said, man, I really want to do this. So I became certified.
You know what? That I believe that was a great, great, great decision because you just thrive in that environment. And I haven't been having known you for just a short amount of time. I just realized that you are a people's person, right?
Yes.
Not only
Yes.
bringing smile into people's lives, and then looking at the progression of your career from a tender age of 15, then transitioning into another culture in the United States, and then practicing nursing, and then again, just like you are metamorphosizing, like going into going into different phases of yourself and as a professional. And now you have established the Burnout Prevention Network.
Mhm.
What is this? What brought you to this decision? I know you are not a person who's in one dimension. So, what brought you into establishing the Burnout Prevention Network?
Well, I think a part of holism is you also recognize the uniqueness of everyone and all that they have to offer. And I'm very passionate about this burnout prevention network because I was in a space with mingling with different nurse coaches, mental health and wellness practitioners, and I realized we're all trying to serve the same population, and we're really not in a competitive, most practitioners in a holistic or wellness space, they're not competitive in the business sense of the word. But I thought, "Ooh, as all of these practitioners try to tackle burnout together, like individually, they're going to burn out because it's such a big thing." And I thought, if we can all come together and we can have a network of where we all recognize what our strengths are and what our niches are, we can come together and we can actually serve from a place where we can take a vacation. We could
Mhm.
serve from a place where we could say, hey, I'm a coach, I'm a mentor, I'm an expert in helping you not burn out, but I also have this backup. I also have this network where if I need to take a break for a moment, I can. And I will still be involved in something that is so phenomenal and that is helping, and I can always jump back in. So, my thoughts behind forming a network is really creating a space where we all can come together and serve our fellow nurses and healthcare workers while at the same time not burning out ourselves.
That's remarkable, Casey. So, on that note, on that same wavelength, let's talk about why is it important to have a burnout network. What's the situation with nursing burnout? Can you elaborate a little bit on that for us, please?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of statistics. I mean, there's a lot of statistics to show that nurses are burning out at a rapid rate. But on top of statistics, I have my own personal statistic, and the fact that during COVID, my family put my husband through nursing school, and as he went through nursing school and graduated, just seeing the outcomes of what's going on with new nurses and just working in the community, you're seeing the rate of students who are prepared to go to college and become nurses decrease. And then you see the nurses who are actually finishing school and getting into the career, they're not staying at the bedside. And then you're seeing, which we already knew, that the baby boomer generation would require an enormous amount of healthcare workers, and now they're aging. And then on top of that, you're also seeing the right before the baby boomers, you're seeing that generation where they're about late 30s all the way up to 50s. They're suffering from serious chronic health problems, and they aren't in a capacity where generations before would have had the energy and the vitality and the community resources to take care of the elderly population. You find they need to be cared for themselves. So you have a whole amalgamation of all these factors coming in together, and not we have a serious shortage of nurses, not just numbers wise, but even, I would say, even presence, because when you are short in numbers and you have all this stuff internally and externally happening, your presence, which we call the healing presence as a holistic nurse, it's not fully there because you're so torn. So even the ones that are there aren't always fully there.
Wow. Wow. You hit a lot of points there. And um as I listened to you, all I could think about, Casey has such a big heart and she wants to make sure that burnout prevention is for the nurses. We want to prevent nurses, and now she says, okay, let's bring on an entire gamut of pro- providers, bring them into a network where nurses don't go looking elsewhere, don't go Google searching for Dr. Google. And now she's brought all of these entities together. Quite phenomenal. But then I'm wondering, like, what are the challenges?
Mm, mm. That is a very, very, very good question. And I think one of the biggest challenges I could think of right to the top of my head is informing a network of coaches or of nurses. Something that I find a challenge is the the financial part of nurses just owning businesses and running businesses. Um, I think figuring out who wants to use our services, not just as an individual, but as a collective. And how can we provide that service to them as a collective in a way that as individuals we can build a profitable and sustainable business model. Mhm.
That's
So I
that's
think
good.
I think that's just one of the challenges I could think of to the top of my head, because I think every nurse would say, wow, this is amazing to have nurses coaching nurses, healing nurses, interested in nurses,
Mhm.
healing, that's amazing. But we always go back to who's going to pay for it.
Who's gonna pay for it? That aspect of healthcare, and we see that, yes, burnout is not being considered as a mental illness, but it still affects our mental well-being. And
Mhm.
looking at the burnout crisis, and then we have the network. We can you please elaborate on who should we be targeting the most between the network and the nurses that we were trying to help out from the network? Who should we be targeting, because it goes back to who should pay for it?
Mhm. Mhm.
Any ideas? Who have you utilized, or who has become a great resource so far?
I think definitely you're a great resource. I think it's been such a pleasure working with you, and really, when we talk about burnout, it sort of falls in a category of its own, because when I have targeted hospital systems, they're very quick to tell you they have the employee the EAP programs, employee
Associate, yeah.
assistance program, and they're really quick to tell you about the the tools and gadgets, high tech stuff that they have that couldn't work for the nurses, because a lot of times it falls into the mental health category. And burnout, it does affect mental health, but it's such a it's such a thing that is unique to nurses, especially because we have certain traits and certain characteristics that make us give us a higher propensity than most to burnout. So I think when we talk about who to target, Some things that I could think of right off the top of my head would be those students, nursing students, because I think a lot of the burnout actually happens in school, and then we normalize it. Like, this is your rite of passage to become a nurse. And then when you get into the nursing actual job and you realize what I learned in school versus reality is very different. I think that that is to retain nurses, not just recruit them, but actually retain new nurses. I actually think they would be a good target audience for our program, because you have, which we really honor, a lot of our retired nurses and elderly nurses, and we have them as mentors on our program. And having these nurses say, we can pour back into these new nurses. We could tell them the things that we did that really didn't work out well for us in the long run. We could help bridge the gap when they get nervous about moving careers or shifting to a different type of nursing. They can pick up on that no computer program can pick up, as well as a seasoned nurse can. So I think really targeting nurses who just may, in our profession, we kind of have a history. It's getting a lot better, but we have a history of nurses eating their own, where some of the nurses who still may be practicing that was victims to other nurses in the hierarchy of getting picked on, bullied, all these communication issues. So I think nurses who are newer to the profession, they are going to be prime targets for this burnout prevention network, because we can actually capture it and transition and change our culture as nurses by learning from seasoned nurses.
Seasoned nurses.
Mhm.
We have so many of those whom we call our um, expert matter, subject matter experts.
Yes.
And the seasoned nurses fall into that category. And then we
Mhm.
have our newer generation of nurses coming in. And then we have the nurses who, oh, it hurts my heart to even mention thousands, tens and thousands of nurses who have walked out of the profession completely, like throwing the towel in and says, I'm done. So we
Yeah.
have all of these dynamics going on in healthcare. When you look at it in your worldview, where do you think we're headed as a profession?
I think we as a profession, we're heading towards a crisis. And just my observation of the American healthcare system, they handle crisis really well. If you have a problem and if you have an emergency and you need crisis intervention, you really want to be in the United States, because they do very well with crisis. However, um, I think it's a little bit too late to start doing preventative to prevent it. So I think now where we are with our burnout prevention is really alerting the authorities, alerting the communities, alerting the CEOs and executives, and saying, okay, we are beyond prevention. So how can we really prevent a collapse of the entire healthcare system because our nurses aren't well? And how does this affect the quality of care that you want to deliver to your communities? I think we're in a very, very interesting period, should I say. And I think it's an opportunity for nurses to really shine and show what we're made of, but not in the way that we have in the past. Usually in the past, we would shine by pulling extra shifts and, killing ourselves in order to save everybody else. But in my opinion, I think this is a really unique opportunity to shine in showing that we can use our skills, talents, critical thinking in a way to save our profession and actually elevate our practice instead of being the martyr and
Mhm.
sacrificing our well being.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like at the end of your statement, you always hit some mark, not being the martyr, but surviving so that you can also be a beacon of light, a beacon of light for someone. So Casey, knowing you quite well that you are one person that lives, you embody the the entire definition, the meaning of burnout prevention. Because yes, burnout has happened, as you mentioned, and we do not want it to reoccur. We do not want. We've met nurses who have burnt out 3 times. Those nurses have known people who have burnt out 16 times. Imagine that. My question to you, it sounds like it's a fable, right? It sounds like we're just making this up, but these are real stories. These are real people that we meet and speak with.
Mhm.
So now, what do you do to prevent for yourself? What has worked with your burnout prevention?
So I would be very transparent with you, and I will let you know that I have not 100% recovered from burnout. I feel
Mm,
as though it's a life journey because as a nurse, we have a propensity to be that martyr,
mm,
to put ourselves out there where we will suffer, we will bear it and with a smile and allow everybody else to be taken care of. And something that has really helped me and something that I'm working on
mhm.
currently, it's actually in a Bible scripture, and I'm going to put it across the screen.
Thank
Um, it's Isaiah 30, verse 15, where the sovereign Lord Jehovah says, the Holy One of Israel says, by returning to me and resting, you will be saved. Your strength will be in keeping calm and showing trust. And
you.
honestly, I really wrote this scripture down because I said, man, look how much words God used to just describe himself. Sovereign, Lord, Jehovah, Holy One of Israel. Like he's saying, I have all authority to tell you this. And all authority means I am telling you to rest, keep calm, and show trust. And what that means is really listening when he says to rest. And a lot of times I realize that it doesn't matter what I do, yoga, exercise, deep breathing, classes, sambal healing, like all of the strategies and interventions to prevent burnout is wonderful. But as a nurse myself, I have not, well, I shouldn't say I have not, but I realize I have a very weak muscle in receiving and accepting. So, in all the strategies, all the help that's coming my way, I will always go back to, I kept going back to not resting. And that's where the second part of the scripture says, but you were unwilling. You said, no, we will flee on horses and swift horses. And then he said, those pursuing you will be swift. So, why I share this is because I had to learn how to rest. I
Mhm.
have to learn how to trust. And those things are a little bit deeper and not so visible to the eye. I had to learn how to accept help. I had to learn how to take a bubble bath and not feel like I'm wasting time. I had
Mhm.
to learn how to let my husband tend to the baby while I take a quick nap and not feel like I need to control it and do it all. And I'm still learning these things, but I realized that my giving muscle, my ability to give was very, very strong. I was in ministry, I was a nurse. So I'm giving, 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 giving. But my ability to receive was very, very weak. And instead of trying to get certifications in yoga and Tai Chi and everything, I learned I actually need to learn how to accept. I have to learn how to accept a compliment, how to accept 5 minutes doing nothing, I had to build those muscles. And not because I want it means that I was actually going to accept it.
Mhm.
And I think this is where, with even a lot of programs that we have, a lot of initiatives that we may have, it's poorly attended because we don't have that muscle that knows how to accept with grace. So that, I mean, for all the strategies that I have and that I really love and I think is amazing, I think for me, building that ability to accept just as much, and I don't think it will ever be as much as I give, but
Mhm.
even like it's kind, that muscle is a little bit retarded, so I really have to pump it up a little bit. I have to pump it up a little bit. And like seriously, I have to like accept like from a stranger telling me a compliment or my baby giving me something. Like it seems ridiculous, but I really did not have any muscle to accept. And so I realized that it wasn't just disobedience. I actually do want to trust and I do want to be cared for and I do want to receive rest and relaxation. And now I'm working on learning how to receive.
Wow. Wow. Talk about the rest ambassador. There's nothing else that explains what that truly mean, beyond what you just went through the length to describe for us, Casey, because I truly believe our listeners are getting something from this conversation, because you have become so vulnerable, right? Allowing us to see you truly for who you are, and to see your faults, areas that you've been weak, and areas that you've been strong, and where you need to go to the gym and work on that muscle, that receiving
That
muscle. And you are not alone. Some of us need to build it. Some of us need to strengthen it. Some of us need to maintain it, because,
Mhm,
like any exercise, the more you exercise that
mhm.
part of your muscle, part of your that organ that you're exercising, it becomes more strong to equip you for the longer run. So
Absolutely.
thank you for dropping that in. Is there anything else that we left out? Anything else that you would like to leave as final words for our listeners that have spent their time with us during this time?
Yeah, I would definitely say just thank you so much for interviewing me and asking me such wonderful questions. And I definitely think for any of the viewers listening who want to be part of the Burnout Prevention Network, we have room for everyone. And I think it's a fascinating just interviewing the members of the Burnout Prevention and seeing what their specialty is. And everyone has a unique space, and it is my it is my heart's desire to see all of us nurses practicing in a way that really aligns and harmonizes with who we are innately, not just who we have to be for other people, but who we were purposed and designed to be. So that's my I guess it would be my come join our network. And let's figure it out as we go and be part of this imperfectly perfect association under Nurses in Charge. So that's my last words, Dr. Nayampu.
Thank you so much for taking your time to enlighten us on who you are, how you became a nurse, what you're doing, as a rest ambassador, what you're doing for our community, not only for the professionals in nursing, but what you're doing to reach out to indirectly impact our patients' outcome. Because when we are well equipped, when we have those skill sets to provide self care, to
Absolutely.
have a longevity in our profession, versus getting to the point where we throw in the towel. When we have all of that, we can have a journey of in nursing that is, it don't feel like work. It feel more like fun. And
Absolutely.
I couldn't be more proud to be your partner on this journey, to be your co-host on this talk show, because we are we are actually sharing light on a lot of things that people don't want to talk about. Sharing light and bringing people on board that may have wanted for the longest time to hop on that bus, to bring, to transport solution, to transport interventions to be, flash your light so people can see it, so people can come and get their healing that they rightfully deserve. Casey,
Mhm.
it's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank
Always with that bright and beautiful smile. We wouldn't want to be in you, be with you in one space and make a transformation. Thank you so much. Thank you again to our viewers who have taken their time to join us on this broadcast and to just see that we are humans
you.
just like you. We have experienced burnout, maybe like you or someone that you know, your colleagues or someone in the world. We're humans and we're just sparking, um, uh, making a spark on these issues and making sure that we take the charge and not wait for it to happen for us, but that we will be at the forefront of this movement to eradicate burnout. We don't deserve it. Thank you again for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Nyampu.
Thank you. Thank you.